Part 1. The Voice Within. Engaging hook. He was tired. Tired of the noise, the confusion, the constant feeling that something was missing. Jason stood in front of the mirror on a rainy Monday morning, staring into his own eyes. "Why do I feel stuck?" he whispered. But this time, something strange happened. The silence answered back. Jason wasn't a failure by any means. He had a job, a small apartment, a few loyal friends. But deep inside, he knew he wasn't where he was supposed to be. Every morning felt like hitting the repeat button on a life that didn't excite him anymore. That Monday, he heard a podcast while walking to work. The voice on it said, "If you want to be successful, start by asking yourself the right questions, and ask them out loud." It sounded ridiculous. Out loud? Like actually talking to yourself? But Jason had tried everything else. So, that night, in the quiet of his room, he sat on the edge of his bed and spoke. "What do I really want?" There was no thunder, no lightning, no magical whisper. Just silence. Still, he kept going. "Why do I keep holding myself back? What am I afraid of?" The questions didn't give him answers immediately. But something happened. He felt lighter. For the first time in a long time, he felt like he was listening to himself. Day 1. Awareness. Jason had unknowingly taken the first step, self-awareness. Most people live years, even decades, without ever truly examining their own thoughts. They let the world shout over their inner voice until it becomes barely a whisper. But the truth is, as Napoleon Hill once said, "Until you become self-aware, nothing will change." So Jason made a decision. For 3 days he would speak to himself, out loud, with purpose. He would treat his own voice as if it were the voice of a mentor, a guide, a leader. The next morning, Jason looked into the mirror again. This time, he didn't just stare. He spoke. "I am tired of living small," he said. "I want to grow. I want to lead. I want to win." He felt awkward. Silly even. But he kept going. From that moment, something shifted. It wasn't visible, not yet. But inside, there was movement. A new thought was born. What if I really can change? The power of the inner voice. Napoleon Hill often spoke about the definiteness of purpose. He said that every success story begins with a clear intention and the inner belief to back it up. Jason began to realize that his inner voice was not just a background noise. It was the blueprint of his future. If he kept saying, "I'm not good enough," his life would reflect that belief. But if he started saying, "I am capable. I am worthy. I am unstoppable," then his life would start to align with those truths. So he practiced. Standing in his room, he declared, "I am strong. I am meant for something greater. I will no longer shrink to fit into small spaces." And then he did something brave. He wrote it down. Writing the vision, Jason took out a small notebook. On the first page, he wrote, "Where do I want to go?" He answered honestly, "I want to wake up excited for my life. I want to do work that matters. I want to feel free." Then he asked, "What do I wish to accomplish?" His hand trembled slightly as he wrote, "I want to start my own business. I want to inspire others." Finally, he asked, "What impact do I want to leave behind?" This time, the answer came quickly. "I want people to say that I made them believe in themselves." Napoleon Hill once wrote, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." Jason was beginning to understand that he wasn't just dreaming anymore. He was designing. The mind as soil. Jason thought of his mind like a garden. Every thought he planted was either a seed of growth or a weed of doubt. He had been planting weeds for too long. "I'm not good enough. What if I fail? I'm just not that type of person." But now, he was learning to pull them out, one by one, and plant new seeds. "I am learning. I am growing. I am becoming the man I was meant to be." The invisible law of belief. Jason remembered a quote from the podcast that stuck with him. "Whatever you consistently say to yourself, you begin to believe. Whatever you believe, you begin to become." It made sense. All around him, people were walking around with beliefs given to them by others, teachers, parents, society, and even their failures. But very few questioned those beliefs. Even fewer replaced them with better ones. Jason decided he would be one of those few. He began to speak to himself like a trusted mentor would. You've been through worse than this. You've overcome storms before. You've got what it takes. 3 days to transformation. That night, Jason marked a calendar. Why heavy check mark day 1. Self-awareness. He had begun the journey. He didn't know what would come in the next 2 days, but he knew this. He would no longer let doubt drive the car. He would no longer let fear be louder than his future. He whispered before going to bed. I believe in myself. And tomorrow I will prove it. End of part 1. Absolutely. Below is part 2 of your 6-part motivational story in the Napoleon Hill style, using simple, clear language and storytelling to engage an American audience. This builds on Jason's journey from part 1, focusing on resilience, belief, and passion, all while keeping the message uplifting and powerful. Part 2, The Fire That Never Dies, engaging hook. On the second morning, Jason woke up to a rejection email. It was a freelance project he'd hoped would help him finally leave his job. For a moment, he stared at the screen. Cold, flat words. Thank you for your interest, but we've decided to go in another direction. He felt it again, that sinking, familiar feeling in his chest. The urge to say, maybe this just isn't for me. But then, something inside whispered, no. This is part of the process. And for the first time, he didn't try to run from the pain. He leaned in. Jason remembered what he had committed to: 3 days of reshaping his life from the inside out. Day 1 had been about asking the right questions, tuning into his inner voice, and writing down his goals. Day 2, it was about what you do when life doesn't go your way. Bending without breaking, he sat by the window and whispered, what is this here to teach me? Not why me, not what's wrong with me, just a quiet, honest question. How can I grow because of this? Jason remembered reading once about Thomas Edison. How the man tried over 10,000 times to invent the light bulb. People thought he was crazy. But when asked about his failures, Edison simply said, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Jason smiled. He got it now. Resilience wasn't about being perfect. It was about refusing to quit. He stood up, grabbed his notebook, and wrote in bold, I am not fragile. I am in training. Every time life knocks you down, it gives you a choice: fall apart or grow stronger. Napoleon Hill wrote, every adversity carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. But most people never stick around long enough to see the seed bloom. Reframing the struggle throughout the day, Jason practiced a new mindset. Ballot box with check. Flat tire? This is part of my training. Ballot box with check. Meeting didn't go well? This is how I grow. Ballot box with check. Feeling discouraged? This is temporary. I'm building something bigger. He was building what Hill called emotional muscle. Just like lifting weights, at first it hurts. But over time, you get stronger. And soon, what used to break you now builds you. Jason began to see his mind as a gym. Every challenge was a workout. Every setback a chance to grow. Belief, your greatest asset. That night, Jason sat in silence and asked himself, do I really believe I can do this? For a moment, doubt crept in. The voice that said, maybe you're just not good enough. But he caught it. That was the old him talking. The man who gave up too soon. The man who stayed quiet in meetings. The man who never raised his hand because he feared failure. Jason took a deep breath. He looked in the mirror and said out loud, I am more powerful and capable than I realize. My potential is limitless. It wasn't about arrogance. It was about honoring the strength inside that life hadn't beaten out of him yet. Roots that hold. Jason started visualizing himself like a tree. A mighty oak. Storms may come. Winds may howl. But the roots, his purpose, his vision, his belief, run deep. That's what made people unstoppable. Not the absence of fear, but the decision to keep standing. He thought of others who had done just that. The Wright brothers believed in flying when no one else did. Eleanor Roosevelt kept her poise and mission despite cruel critics. They didn't wait for the world's permission to believe. They declared it. And so would he. Belief in motion. Jason started building a new morning ritual. Each morning, before checking his phone, before emails, before noise, he stood tall and said, I am becoming more confident every day. I am unshakable. Even my setbacks serve me. Then he'd take 5 minutes to visualize a win, a speech given, a project completed, a room applauding. It wasn't daydreaming, it was rehearsal. He could feel it. He could see it. And the more he repeated it, the more real it became, reigniting passion. By afternoon, Jason felt a different energy in his chest, something he hadn't felt in years. Excitement. He found himself sketching ideas for his business. Not because someone told him to, but because he wanted to. Time flew. He forgot to check the clock. He felt alive. That's when he realized passion isn't a luxury, it's fuel. When you follow it, energy follows you. Jason remembered what Michelangelo once said about painting the Sistine Chapel. If people knew how hard I worked to gain my mastery, it wouldn't seem so wonderful at all. Greatness doesn't come from grinding through things you hate. It comes from pouring yourself into something you love. The natural law of enthusiasm. Jason noticed something else too. When he talked with passion, people listened differently. His ideas had more spark. His voice had more strength. It was like the world could sense the shift in him. Passion is contagious. When you believe in what you're doing, opportunities begin to appear. Not because the world changes, but because you did. The end of Day 2. Before bed, Jason opened his journal and wrote, I choose resilience over defeat. I believe in myself. My passion is my compass. He smiled. 2 days in, and already, the mirror was talking back differently. Jason wasn't chasing success anymore. He was becoming someone success would chase. End of Part 2. Part 3. Speak it into existence. Engaging hook. By the third morning, Jason noticed something strange. Not outside. Inside. He stood in front of the mirror as he had the past 2 days, ready to speak his affirmations. But this time, something was different. The words didn't feel awkward. They didn't feel forced. They felt true. I am capable. I am building something that matters. I am becoming the man I was meant to be. And for the first time, he believed it. Jason didn't know it, but this was one of the great turning points in any transformation, when belief shifts from effort to embodiment. In his journal, he wrote, I no longer say these things to convince myself. I say them to remind myself of who I already am. The seed is growing. Napoleon Hill once said, What the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Jason had already conceived it. He had started to believe it. Now, it was time to achieve it. But as soon as progress begins, so does resistance. That afternoon, during a team meeting at work, Jason shared a bold idea for a new client pitch. He spoke with clarity, confidence, and direction. The room went silent. Then, one of his colleagues smirked and said, That's a little out of your league, don't you think? The old Jason would have shrunk. Laughed it off. Changed the subject. But not this time. Jason paused, looked his teammate in the eye, and said calmly, It may seem that way now. But not for long. The battle of inner dialogue. After the meeting, Jason went for a walk. The old doubts tried to sneak back in. You're not a leader. Who do you think you are? You've never done this before. But he stopped walking, closed his eyes, and whispered, These thoughts are not facts. They are echoes of the past. And I am not who I used to be. That's when he remembered something powerful. You don't speak affirmations to avoid doubt. You speak them to overpower it. The mind is a battlefield. And the voice you listen to the most becomes your general. Rituals that rewrite reality. When Jason got home, he went straight to his notebook and created a new morning routine. Not just affirmations. A system. Point 1. Speak 3 affirmations aloud, with power. Point 2. Write 1 clear goal for the day. Point 3. Visualize 1 bold future success for 60 seconds. Point 4. Read his personal mission statement. I am building a life of freedom, impact, and purpose. I rise early. I lead with clarity. I serve with passion. This wasn't just habit. This was identity training. Jason was no longer just trying to succeed. He was becoming someone who succeeds. The world mirrors the mind. The next few days surprised him. His voice became steadier. His eyes more focused. Even strangers seemed to respond differently. A coffee shop owner offered him a discount. A client asked for his input in a new meeting. An old friend messaged out of nowhere, saying, "Hey man, I don't know what you're doing lately, but you look different. Happier. More confident." That's the invisible law Napoleon Hill spoke of. Your outer world reflects your inner world. Once your inner belief changes, the world can't help but catch up. What you speak, you build. Jason came across an old quote and wrote it on a sticky note above his desk. Your words are not wishes. They are blueprints. If you constantly say, "I don't have time," you'll always feel rushed out. If you say, "I'm terrible at this," you'll stop trying. But if you say, "I'm learning," or "I'm improving," or asterisk, "This is hard but I'm growing," you keep building. Jason's new mantra became, "Speak life. Speak belief. Speak results." The echo effect at the office. One of his coworkers pulled him aside. "Hey Jason, I don't know what's going on with you, but you've been locked in lately. Like laser focused. What changed?" Jason smiled. He didn't brag. He didn't give a speech. He simply said, "I started listening to a better voice." From motivation to momentum. On his third evening, Jason sat alone and looked back on the past 72 hours. Only 3 days. But it felt like something permanent had shifted. He had spoken truth to himself out loud. He had reframed pain into purpose. He had built a foundation of belief. And now, he was moving. Not just motivated. He had momentum. That's when the realization hit him. This isn't a challenge I finish. This is a habit I live. A word to the reader: Jason is not a superhero. He doesn't have some secret gift. He simply made a decision that most people never do. He took control of his inner dialogue, and that changed everything. You can do the same. Today, right now, start by speaking. Not with fear. Not with doubt. But with power. With intention. With belief. Your words are building something, whether you know it or not. So build wisely. Build boldly. Speak it into existence. End of part 3. Absolutely. Here is part 4 of your motivational story series in the Napoleon Hill style. This part explores resistance, fear, and decision-making under pressure, continuing Jason's journey with clear, simple language and engaging storytelling for an American audience. Part 4. The Resistance Test. Engaging hook. Jason's week had been filled with wins. His energy was up. His ideas were flowing. His inner voice, once quiet and uncertain, now echoed with purpose. But life doesn't let you grow without testing you. That test came on Friday morning in the form of an email that made his stomach turn. Subject line: Your position is being reevaluated. His company had decided to restructure the team. Rumors had been flying for weeks, but now it was real. Suddenly, Jason's position, his paycheck, his stability, was on the line. The timing couldn't have been worse. Or maybe it was perfect. When the ground shakes, Jason stared at the screen. The old fear showed up fast: tight chest, sweaty palms, racing thoughts. You're going to lose everything. You should have kept your head down. This is what happens when you try to grow. For a full minute he sat frozen. Then he remembered what he had learned over the last 3 days. When fear speaks loudest, it's because you're close to something powerful. He stood up, walked to the bathroom mirror, and faced himself. Jason, he said out loud, you knew this journey would test you. Now prove you meant what you said. He repeated his affirmations, not like a routine, but like a battle cry. I am resilient. I trust the timing of my life. Even this serves me. The fear of losing security. Let's be honest. Fear isn't fake. It's not just in your head. Fear shows up when something important is on the line: money, reputation, your sense of control. But Napoleon Hill warned against letting fear become the captain of your ship. In Think and Grow Rich, he wrote, fears are nothing more than a state of mind. Jason didn't deny the fear. He acknowledged it. Then, he asked himself a question that changed everything. What if this isn't a breakdown, but a breakthrough? The decision point later that afternoon, Jason got a call from a close friend named Marcus. "Man, I heard about the company news," Marcus said. "Listen, maybe now's not the time for all these bold moves. Maybe just lay low for a bit." Jason thanked him but said nothing more. After the call, he wrote in his journal, "People will always tell you to shrink when the world shakes. But I didn't come this far to go small again." That's the truth. When resistance shows up, so do choices. You either retreat or rise. Every test is a mirror. Jason realized this moment wasn't just about a job. It was about identity. Was he still the version of himself that played it safe? Or had he truly become someone who could walk through uncertainty with purpose? He remembered Hill's words. One of the most common causes of failure is the habit of quitting when one is overtaken by temporary defeat. Jason decided he wouldn't quit, not on his dreams, not on himself, not now. Purpose over panic. Instead of spiraling, Jason got to work. He updated his resume, not out of panic, but preparation. He reached out to 2 new business contacts, not for comfort, but for connection. He scheduled a weekend to work on his side business plan, not because of fear, but because of focus. This challenge, he told himself, will not break me. It will build me. The power of choice. That evening, he took a walk. The air was cool, the streetlights glowing softly. He thought about the people who gave up at the edge of greatness, the ones who got scared when things didn't go to plan, the ones who let resistance talk them out of becoming who they were meant to be. Then he thought about Edison, the Wright brothers, Roosevelt, Hill, people who kept going even when the road got hard. Jason whispered to himself, "I am walking in their footsteps now." Lessons in the fire. Jason learned something powerful that day. Resistance is not the enemy. It's the signal. It means you're growing. It means you're leveling up. It means something inside you is no longer willing to settle. Most people avoid resistance. Winners walk through it. That's why Napoleon Hill called failure a signal that your plans need to be rebuilt, not abandoned. A new kind of combat. Bedtime. Jason was different. He didn't know what the company would decide. He didn't have all the answers. But he had something better. Certainty in himself. He had passed the resistance test. Not because life got easier, but because he got stronger. He wrote his final journal entry for the night. "Even if this door closes, I'm not locked out. I'm being redirected. I will walk through fear with my head held high. I trust the man I'm becoming." To you, the reader, maybe you're facing your own resistance right now. A tough decision. A bad week. A moment of doubt. Here's what Jason would tell you. This doesn't mean you're losing. This means you're being forged. Stay in the fire. Let it shape you. Then come out sharper, stronger, and more certain than ever before. You've got this. Don't step back. Step up. End of Part 4. Part 5. The Breakthrough Blueprint. Emotional hook. Jason sat alone at the cafe with his laptop open and a cup of cold coffee by his side. Outside, the world moved at its usual pace. Inside, something had shifted. For the first time in a long time, Jason wasn't waiting for opportunity. He was building one. The message that changed everything. On Monday morning, Jason got a message from HR. The restructuring was confirmed. His position would be phased out in 60 days. Most people would panic. Jason paused, breathed, and smiled. "Thank you," he whispered to himself. "Now I'm free." He opened a fresh notebook. On the top of the page, he wrote, "Breakthrough BLUEPRANT, not a backup plan. A better plan. Point 1, designed by him. Not by fear, not by default, not by anyone else. The foundation, self-mastery." Jason started by asking one simple question. What have I learned about myself in the last month? His answers came fast. I am more focused when I eliminate distractions. I am stronger than my fears. I work best when I start with purpose, not pressure. This wasn't about theory anymore. This was wisdom earned in the fire. He remembered what Hill wrote. All achievements, all earned riches, have their beginning in an idea. Jason had an idea. It wasn't polished. It wasn't perfect. But it was his. The idea becomes a plan. For months, Jason had helped friends solve problems. Personal coaching, leadership training, mindset shifts. It started small. A text here, a lunch chat there. But what if it wasn't just kindness? What if this is my calling? He thought. He scribbled the phrase. Clarity coaching, helping high performers break mental limits. That night, he bought a domain name. He wasn't waiting anymore. He was building. Bold action beats perfect timing. Jason didn't wait for the logo. He didn't worry about the website. He just got to work. He called 3 old coworkers and offered a free coaching session. He emailed his network with a short message. I'm launching something new, focused on mindset and performance. If you know someone who needs clarity, I'm here to help. He posted a simple video on LinkedIn. Sometimes, getting laid off is the best thing that can happen. Here's why I'm finally chasing what lights me up. Did it feel scary? Absolutely. But he had learned something powerful. Courage doesn't remove fear. It moves with it. The shift, from victim to leader. Jason didn't see himself as someone who lost a job anymore. He saw himself as someone who had been freed to lead. He woke up early. Took cold showers. Walked in silence. Not because it was trendy, but because it trained his mind. He wrote every morning, what am I building today? Who can I help today? How do I want to feel when I lay my head down tonight? This was no longer about money. It was about meaning. Momentum attracts miracles. By the end of the second week, Jason had 5 clients. Paying clients. 1 referred another. Another introduced him to a startup founder. And that founder wanted Jason to run a 3-part team workshop. You've got something rare, the founder said. You get people to move. Jason smiled. Not because of the compliment, but because he had once needed someone to say that to him. And now, he had become that person for others. What Hill would say if Napoleon Hill sat across the table from Jason, he'd likely nod and say, the world has a habit of making room for the man whose words and actions show he knows where he is going. Jason was no longer guessing. He was no longer drifting. He had become intentional, deliberate, unstoppable. It's not just Jason. This part of the story isn't just about one man. It's about you. You may not be starting a coaching business, but you have a dream. An idea. A blueprint waiting to be drawn. Here's the truth. You don't need all the answers. You don't need permission. You don't need to wait. You just need to move. 1 bold action at a time. Your breakthrough blueprint right now. Take out a blank sheet of paper and write. 1. What do I really want to build? 2. Who do I want to become in the process? 3. What's one step I can take today to show I mean it? Your blueprint isn't hidden. It's inside you, waiting to be lived. Jason's final note in his journal that week read, I thought the job was the prize. But the prize was becoming someone who no longer waits to be chosen. End of Part 5. Part 6. The Inner Circle, Emotional Hook. Jason stood at the top of the hill near his apartment, watching the sun rise. Not long ago, he would have been driving to a job he didn't love, fighting traffic, and chasing a paycheck. Now, he was chasing purpose. And more importantly, he wasn't chasing alone. No one wins alone. The deeper Jason went into his new journey, the more he realized something powerful. I can't do this alone. And I'm not supposed to. He had the fire. He had the plan. But what he needed next was alignment, not just with himself, but with others who believed in growth, truth, and excellence. The power of people. Jason started intentionally building what he called his inner circle, a mentor who had built businesses before. A friend who didn't flatter, but gave honest feedback. A peer group who were also chasing big goals. A spiritual guide who helped him stay grounded. These people didn't just cheer him on, they challenged him. They didn't let him settle for comfort when he was built for greatness. Napoleon Hill called this your mastermind group. No mind is complete by itself. It needs contact and cooperation with other minds to grow and expand. Jason was growing faster than ever, because now he had others watering the same dream. Removing toxic voices just as important as who he added was who he walked away from. He let go of friends who always doubted and discouraged. People who loved small talk but hated deep work. Voices who laughed at dreams they didn't understand. This wasn't about being arrogant. It was about being disciplined with his energy. You become like the 5 people you spend the most time with, his mentor reminded him. So choose wisely. From pressure to peace with the right people around him, Jason started feeling lighter. Not because life got easier, but because he was no longer carrying it all alone. One night, after a long call with his mastermind group, he wrote in his journal, "Success isn't just about what I build. It's about who I build it with." That was the missing piece. That was the piece. He became a mentor too as Jason grew. Others started asking him for guidance. How did you get unstuck? What made you take the leap? How do you stay focused? He didn't pretend to be perfect. He simply shared the truth. And in doing so, he discovered the greatest secret of all. When you teach, you learn twice. When you lift others, you rise too. Legacy over lifestyle. Jason wasn't chasing fancy cars or shiny watches. He was chasing impact. Every day, he asked, who did I serve today? Who did I encourage? What truth did I speak, even if it was uncomfortable? He had learned from Hill's teachings that riches are not just money. They are relationships, character, peace of mind, and freedom. The final shift one afternoon, while leading a workshop for young entrepreneurs, Jason paused mid-sentence. He looked around the room. He saw fire in their eyes. He saw versions of himself, where he used to be, and it hit him. I didn't just change my life. I became the example that change is possible. Now it's your turn. This story ends, but yours is just beginning. You have a mind that can think big. A heart that knows what matters. A spirit that can rise from anything. You've seen Jason grow, from stuck and scared, to focused, free, and on fire. Now ask yourself, what would my life look like if I truly believed I could build it? You don't need perfect timing. You don't need everyone to believe. You need one thing. The decision to start. Start scared. Start small. Start anyway. And surround yourself with people who remind you of who you're becoming. Because you were never meant to do this alone. Your inner circle challenge before you close this: do one thing. 1. Write down the 5 people you spend the most time with. 2. Circle the ones who lift you. 3. Put a question mark next to the ones who drain you. 4. Decide who needs more access to your time, and who needs less. The future you want is waiting. But it's not just built with hustle. It's built with humans who believe in you. Jason's final journal entry in the series. I once thought success was a mountain I had to climb alone. But I've learned it's a table, meant to be shared with others who dream just as wildly. Welcome to your table. End of part 6, final part. Please like, subscribe, and comments. Thanks.